Hey there guys, it's Amanda Ross here and I am coming at you today with a new video. We're gonna talk about fonts. That's what I feel like. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel like that. I'm really sorry that I subjected you to that nonsensical behavior. Sorry. So what I want to talk about is fonts. And the reason I want to talk about that is because over in my Facebook group, B Snaps, Facebook group B Snaps, come on over, join us. It's fantastic. We're doing a watch party tomorrow, Wednesday. Wednesdays are watch parties. We have so much fun. You don't even know. You don't even know how much fun it is. So come on over, join us at B Snaps on the Facebook. On the Facebook? Is that what you say? On the Facebook. Anyway, it's my group and it's awesome. So the reason I'm doing this video is because Jude, thank you, Jude, had a question about fonts. She is just building her WordPress website. She's working on that and she wants to understand sort of fonts and styling and things like that. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of an overview about the font situation, okay? We're gonna talk about fonts, but we're gonna talk about SEO and fonts and why that matters and how that matters. Not just fonts, but headings and styling and things like that, okay? So there are six headings you can use. There's an H1 tag all the way to an H6 tag, okay? So that is the number of headings that are available to you in a WordPress website. And this matters. Headings matter. And the reason that headings matter is because Google, when it reaches out with its little spidery, leggy things, that's what I like to imagine, these little spidery things come out and they search your website, Google really focuses on your H tags, okay? So your H1, H2, H3, generally don't actually go to H4, H5, H6. They're there. You might use them, you might not. But generally you're gonna probably use your H1 and H2 and H3. Generally you're not gonna go any further than that. So your heading tags, it's really important to beef them up with keywords. Not beef them up, don't go crazy because Google also doesn't like that, so don't be weird about it. You like, don't be weird. So be normal, okay? But make sure that you try to have one keyword in your headings as you build them out. So what it does is it reaches out and it searches and it really focuses on your heading tags to decide what your content is actually about. So your heading tags really matter. They're not the most important thing in the whole entire world, but they matter in that sense. Okay, so we want to think about that. So you're going to use your H1 is generally you're only going to use one H1 tag. Your H1 is most always going to be, especially in the world of WordPress. Ooh, that was a tongue twister right there. I had a little bit of trouble there. Sorry about that. In the world of WordPress, the H1 is going to be your page title or your blog post title. It automatically pulls it in as your H1, so you don't have to repeat it within your content. However, please check with your theme because sometimes they do weird things. So just check that it's actually happening that way and they haven't done something where you actually have to build out your own H1. Okay, so H1 headings most generally happen that way with WordPress, okay? So you're likely not gonna actually build out an H1 heading tag within your content, but you will use H2s and H3s. And so your H2s will sort of be your next section breakers, right? So within your content, they're going to be the next pieces that you use to break up that content. And then your H3s will break up each of those pieces. And then your P means paragraph, your paragraph or body font will fill out the rest of all of your content. Okay, so it might be something like you say, you know, these are the top 5 ways that Google ranks your website. And so you're going to have 5 H2 tags, and within those you might use H3 to break up each one of those 5, and it would be a quick header. So maybe the first one is you're using your heading fonts properly, and then you might go what your H1 heading font is, and that would be an H3 tag. Whew, it's confusing. But then the actual content around what that actual tip is, that's just normal body paragraph text. So that's what you need to think about for your heading tags when you're using them, okay? The other thing you want to think about when it comes to fonts is that the time it takes to load fonts. So Google cares, in the world of SEO, Google cares how quick fast, how fast your website is actually loading. It doesn't like it like this. It likes it like this, right? I like it like that. That's what Google likes it, okay? It likes it quick, fast, loading like this. Your fonts matter because if you're using fonts that don't load quickly, it's slowing things down. So make sure that you're using web-friendly fonts. And of course, the best way to do that, use Google Fonts, okay? That's the best way to do that because Google built these fonts to be fast, they're web-friendly, they work really well on Chrome, which is the #1 browser in the world. So web fonts are really important. Google fonts are awesome. When you get a theme, when you get a WordPress theme, make sure that they actually allow for Google fonts. Make sure that they are bringing those in. So we want to make sure that they support Google fonts within the theme. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that when you put the theme on your WordPress website and you go into the actual theme settings and you can choose a font, the Google fonts should automatically populate in there. There should just be a list of all these amazing fonts that you can look at. And the final thing to keep in mind here is the actual visual appearance of the fonts. We don't want to be crazy bold like this and yelling at them all the time, unless you meant to, and then it's fine. But be aware of sort of how the appearance of your fonts looks. And why does that matter? Well, that matters because of our bounce rate. Okay, so if somebody gets to your website and they go, what is happening here? These fonts hurt my eyes and my brain, and it's too big or it's too little or it's too screaming. They don't match. Probably you've got two different competing fonts. People bounce out of there. So a bounce rate means that somebody has come to your website or a web page and they left. Okay, how quickly did they leave? That's your bounce rate. A high bounce rate is bad. Sounds weird, but high, bad. Okay, so if your bounce rate is 90%, you got major problems, okay? That means people are just coming and leaving. They're not even staying. So we want a low bounce rate, okay? Our bounce rate, it's important to have a lower bounce rate. So if our fonts are not good, like they're again, all of those things that I just said, then people will leave because the visual appearance of your website really matters. So you have to think about the fonts that you're using. I personally like sort of more of a bold font with I like sans serifs, which means a sans serif means it doesn't have the dings. And I think I've talked about this somewhere else before because I feel like I was doing this before. But anyway, it's like a Times New Roman. Okay, that's a serif font. Arial is a sans serif font. Okay, we don't use any of those anymore because why would you when you have amazing Google fonts? So I like things like Oswald. I love Oswald as a clean, bold, heading type font. It's really nice for that. I like, a serif font as sort of my paragraph body font because serif font is easier to read when you're reading in paragraph form. So a nice serif is really nice. The one I'm sort of feeling right now is Sanchez, which you can find on Google Fonts. I like it. And I think I don't know, I just like it. It's really nice. So on Google Fonts, you can go through and you can find all kinds of different fonts, which is super fun. I can get stuck in Google Fonts for like days. It's crazy. Anyway, so be cautious of the appearance because we want to lower our bounce rate. We want to make sure that the fonts are user-friendly, that people are not afraid of them or shocked when they see them, right? We want to make sure that if we're using two different fonts, especially in our opening of the website, sort of above the fold, that piece that people first see, that if we're using two fonts, they are compatible and it doesn't feel weird. So generally you're not going to use two serif fonts, nor are you going to use two sans serif fonts unless one is shaped differently. So you could use like an Oswald because it's skinnier and I would use it in bold. So it's a solid, strong font. And then you might use an open sans, but maybe only in regular. So it's a skinnier and it's more rounded. So you could use those two together, but you would never use, Times New Roman and Sanchez because it would just be weird. You just wouldn't do that. you've got to really think about the fonts that you're using in your site, because low bounce rate, good. All right guys, so the next video, I'm actually going to show you how to use Google Fonts and get those fonts even on your computer, so you can also use them within Photoshop or Word or wherever else you might be using them. I use Google Drive, so I'll also show you how to bring some of those fonts into your Google Drive, because it doesn't pick them all up, you have to actually load them up, and I'll show you how to do that in the next video. Also, if you're curious about whether your WordPress site is a dud or a stud, then definitely click the link, because I've built out 8 videos, maybe not 8, I can't actually remember, but I go through the 8 things that you need to look at when you're choosing a WordPress website theme to make sure that it covers all the things that are really important and what to look for. And there's also a calculator that goes with that, so that you can go through and actually rate your theme, and you'll get a number that will tell you whether it's a dud or whether it's a stud.